for episode 2 of Rugby Southland Teenage Rugby Catch-Up. Got with me here Rugby Southland Junior RDO and Southland Stags halfback, Liam Howley. Liam, it's been a pretty busy few weeks, mate. Obviously no footy for our secondary and teenage teams over Queen's birthday weekend, but back into it this week. It's been a pretty full-on 2 weeks of the season, first 2 weeks of the season.
Yeah, correct. Great start to our teenage rugby. And we've seen some really good games, seen some really good results. It's looking good for the upcoming weeks, and looking forward to getting out there and seeing a bit more of the talent around Southland and what they've got to offer. So, really impressed with what's going on, and lucky enough that we've been able to get round and see a few teams and be with a few coaches, which we'll touch on as we go on. But yeah, really exciting times.
Nice, mate. Right, we'll get straight into it, guys, because it's been a pretty busy first 2 weeks of the competition. We'll get into the under-18s, wherever we look at that grade, because there's been some pretty good footy over those first 2 rounds. We'll start with Central Southland College, Liam. They had a bye first up, of course, but round 2 they took on James Hargis and had a pretty impressive win. Obviously, the defending champions from 2020, Regan Wilson, taking the reins. He's doing a fantastic job coaching those boys. Regan, unfortunately, no longer able to play, but it's great to have someone of his calibre giving back in the coaching ranks. I know talking to him last week, they were still a lot of improvement in their game, so I'm sure they'll be definitely looking to build as the season goes on. Verdon College, though, Liam, they had a bit of a win and a loss. Good first up win over Menzies, but then went down in a tight one to the Southland boys seconds in week 2.
Yep. Verdon looking really good and really strong and promising, and probably a wee bit unlucky in that second round with the seconds, but fought really hard. They're looking like they've got a very good, strong base. We touched on it on the first week of rugby about led by a couple of key boys in that team. So it's really good to see where they're heading, and I'm looking forward to seeing some future results with them. So this weekend will be good for them, and if they can get out there and keep trucking on. So I suppose, and that probably leads us on to Albion, newcomers to the competition, and looking really good. I've seen some good positive things and heard some good things around the community about them. And what do you reckon, Scotty?
Yeah, the Albion boys, great to see them there. Peter Muir doing a really good job with those guys out the road. They had a tight loss first up to the Southland boys high seconds. Obviously had the bye in week 2, so they've had a couple of weeks to, I guess, rest the bodies and get back into it. But it was great to see that they had a really competitive game against the boys high thirds. And I guess, for those smaller clubs, especially out in East and South, and there are those boys that have left school. So it's great to see those boys having a home, being able to play some rugby against, I guess, people of the same age. I guess James Hargis, they're a young developing team led by the impressive Jacob Meeker at fullback. I know they've hung in there. I watched the first half of their game against the boys high seconds, and I know they're in great hands with Mark Tinnock, who's been around the chats for a long time, along with Josh Sutherland. Josh is a young guy who's come down from Tasman. He's unable to play, unfortunately for him, but I guess fortunately for Rugby Southland perspective, he's hopped into the coaching ranks and headed down to Hargis, and he's a guy who's got a lot of, bit of a future in the coaching game. Guy who's put his hand up to do some more coaching. So we've both met with him a couple of times, and I'm sure the Hargis boys definitely in good hands moving forward if he can stick around there. Boys high thirds, as we touched on, bit of a first up win over Albion.
The mighty Dogs.
The Dogs of War. Dogs of War back at it. So good to see the thirds there with a good win. They had a tight loss against Menzies, and by all accounts was a pretty good game of footy in round 2. So I'm sure they've got their annual grudge game this week against the Southland Boys High seconds. Southland Boys High School Girls High ball on Friday night, Liam. You would have done the ball back in your day, mate. But I'm sure they'll be looking to get a win over their seconds. Always a memorable occasion when the thirds beat the seconds at Southland Boys High.
Correct, and I'm sure they will be very much looking forward to that game. And I will be heading down to have a wee nosy. So, looking forward to seeing that grudge match. And I know there'll be plenty of people tuning in to see the result of that game. I know it's a very followed game. So, looking forward to that. And then I suppose that probably leads us on to our last team with Menzies. And they probably they fought very hard against Verdon in the first round. And probably the scoreline doesn't show exactly the extent of that game. So, they showed some really good signs. And I think their last
last game.
So he also had a great win over the Boys High third. So good for Menzies to get on the board. And again, another young first 15 side. And I know the coaching staff and the crew out at Menzies doing a pretty good job with those guys. I know we'll touch on their under 15 shortly, Liam, but I know a lot of good work going on at Menzies. And it's great to see, I guess, not only Menzies, but other teams, a lot of former players or current players stepping into those coaching ranks. So it's great to see those players passing that knowledge to our young teenage players. Right, we might move on to the under-17s because there's also been some good footy in that grade over the first 2 weeks. Fair to say St Peter's and Southland Boys High Red pretty quickly out of the blocks with a couple of good wins respectively. So probably two teams to watch, but I guess in terms of the other teams building themselves into the season. So I'm sure as that season progresses in the under-17 competition, the games will, I guess, tighten up and there'll be some good footy played throughout. So we'll look forward to seeing how that grade pans out. Moving into the under-15s, I know for both yourself and I, Liam, we went out to Menzies a couple of weeks ago and know that they've got a pretty good coaching team again, like we touched on. Matt Richards, one of those coaches, one of our better up-and-coming coaches in the province. And I know the Menzies team they got some very good, promising young players in there. Had a tight first up loss to Boys High, one of the Boys High teams, and then actually knocked over one of the other Boys High teams. So a pretty good start from the boys from Wyndham.
Yeah, I suppose the most pleasing thing about those boys is when we went out there, really good group of boys, really down to earth. A few Tokanui boys out there, and they were pretty proud boys as well. So, it was really cool to get out there and visit and see what cool things they're doing out there. And they were really impressive, not only as good men, but really good rugby players as well. So I'm sure we'll see a lot more of them in the future. And also St Peter's College as well. So it's the East and Southland contingent out there going really well. So I'm sure we'll see a lot more of them to come. But and then I suppose leading on to that under 14, it's looking really good there for Verdun as well. So coming from the roots of under 14 all the way to first 15, they're looking quite good at the moment. And seeing some really good things from that under 14 team. And it's really good to see teams like Menzies and Gore High School getting out there. And I know reasonably low on numbers, but from what we've seen and what we've heard is really positive attitudes and willing to get out there and play some good footy with their mates and have a lot of fun, which is mainly what we're looking for, and we love to see that sort of stuff. So, I'm looking forward to seeing how that grade evolves as we move forward.
Yeah, nice, mate. Outstanding. So, great to see some footy. We'll look forward to getting back into the footy this week. I guess just quickly before we touch on the under-15 girls grade, it's been great to see the Stag Award, I guess, take a bit of life. Obviously, always sometimes these things just an idea, but it's great to see these things go on to life. And looking through the scores that have come through from our referees, some really positive behaviour from not only our players, but also our management and our sidelines at the games across the province. So hopefully we'll be able to get a wee points table up, just trying to tidy up the last couple of scores from those first couple of rounds. But hopefully we can get a wee points update out there for everyone to have a look, see how their team's tracking in the under 14s, 15s and 17s. We might just touch on the under 15 girls because it's been going really, really well. They played 3 weeks and then had a week off over Queen's birthday. But I guess the story, Liam, or one of the storylines would have to be Fiordland College, first time in the grade and with the girls team, and fair to say led by former Māori All Black and Super Rugby player Cullen Bruce. Doing a fantastic job there. The girls have gone really, really well. 5 wins and 1 loss. I know myself, I went up and refereed the games against both Southland Girls High School teams a couple of weeks ago, and it was great to see, actually fantastic to see a big crowd at Tianau on the Monday. And I know Cullen and the team at Fiordland/Tianau put on a really good feed for them, the Tianau Rugby Club. So I guess, really, really promising and positive stuff around that under 15 girls game. And looking at the scores, a lot of close fixtures. So a lot of exciting potential in terms of our female talent, something I know our women's RDO, Georgia Mason, is pretty excited about.
Yep. Yeah. We've been both out. Lucky enough, we've been both out to Tianau, as well as I've been in town, and Scotty's travelled out to Gore and Tianau and watched a few of those games. And the girls look like they're having a lot of fun and learning a lot. And I suppose for some of those girls, very new and green to the game. So introducing them at this 10s level has been really beneficial for them. And I know the girls are enjoying it. And they've seen a couple of big hits and some big collisions. So, it's awesome to see. So really good. Yeah, the 15s is looking really good and healthy, and that's obviously going to lead on to that 18s grade, which was soon to come up. So.
Yeah, nice, mate. Nice, mate. We thought we'd just finish off, team. If you're tuning in, just a couple of reminders of what's coming up. We obviously talked about the Stag Award. So just have that awareness around that. Like I said, we'll get that points table up hopefully this week or early next week. Bit of an update in terms of how that's tracking. Also had our Tight 5 clinics, which have just wrapped up. There was some Tight 5 clinics that we put out. The opportunity for coaches to come along. I guess, Liam, and learn a bit around the fundamentals of scrummaging and lineouts in terms of breaking it right down, individual technique and we subunit technique in their lifters, in their jumpers, in their front row setup.
Yeah.
And I know the coaches and the teams, big thank you to our resource coaches that took part in those. Sean Stoddard, Dana Cunningham, Chris McElrick, Craig Smith, Marty Smith, don't want to leave anyone out. Mel Dermody and Gore did a great job for us in the final session in Gore. So I know in terms of the boys that came along and I guess did the demonstrations, there was a lot of learning for those guys as well. We had the St. Peter's and Gore High first 15 tight fives alongside the James Hargest, Vernon College and Central Southland first and second. So thank you to everyone who showed and everyone who organised that. It definitely was a success. If you're tuning into our YouTube channel, make sure you check out the tight five video footage we've taken. Managed to take some good footage with Dana and Stoddy going through some primers and fundamentals with the Central Southland boys. So if you're a coach out there and you need a little bit of guidance, I guess, or a few ideas around fundamentals around scrummaging and line out, hopefully you might get a wee bit out of that. But Liam, you're obviously involved at the session at Star. I know, talking to a couple of coaches, there's a lot of good feedback around the coaches that came along.
Yep. Yeah, correct. We are obviously lucky enough to have some really good resource coaches around here at the moment. And with Sean Stoddard leading the way, led his knowledge out. And I know that I had a couple of messages just probably mostly from the boys around that they're picking up a lot of things from these sessions. And like Scotty said, it's on YouTube. So get around that if you can, if you need a bit of help around that. And there's some really good stuff brought out from that. And I suppose level 1 coaching is coming up. And we know we've got some really good coaches or coaches willing to learn around the province. And Georgia women's RDO and junior RDO will be looking to run some level 1 coaching courses, one in Gore, one in town, and one out western.
Drummond, I think.
Drummond. So, yeah, please get in contact with her if you're keen to get involved in that. It will be an hour session, get along, but it's baseline stuff around principles of play, and just a bit of planning and where the game's heading at the moment. So, open invite, get in there, send an email to Georgia and let her know if you're available to get along to that.
Yeah, nice, mate. And I guess just a couple of things to wrap up. We're just in the process of finalising our representative coaches for the representative season. So really exciting that hopefully we can get that out in the next few weeks. Our coaching and management teams for our under 16s, under 18 town and country boys. We're trying to, in the process of getting a really good program for those boys lined up against Otago, and also with the Southland under 19 girls, formerly the under 18s. The under 19 girls and under 16 boys will be heading away to their South Island tournaments in October. So player nomination forms have been sent out to those key people at the schools. So it's been great to get a few of those back. So hopefully over the next couple of weeks, coaches or managers, make sure you talk to your rugby administrator in your school or your club contact and get them to get those online forms in with the player nominations. And from there, we'll hopefully be able to send out a couple of dates over the next week or two where we have a bit of a skill session and a bit of a muster for players that have been nominated. So I guess really exciting, Liam, in that rep space, trying to get in for our coaches to have a look at all the players throughout the province, get them all in the same place, which will be really cool. I guess the last thing is just around our girls Super Round coming up on the 28th of June, which will feature all 8 of our under 15 teams and all 5 of our under 18 girls teams will be out at Eade Park on Monday after school. So we're looking to try and pump that up. So that'll be poster coming out around that. But hopefully if you're around, I guess it'll be a good occasion to celebrate our female players and hopefully finished off by the under 15 girls final, which obviously is still in the balance with a couple of weeks to play. Who's going to be there? I know 3 or 4 teams looking like they're in the hunt, so everyone else will have a playoff game, which will be really cool as well. So we look forward to that. But thanks for tuning in if you tuned in. Apologies for the background. It's not overly flash, but we're just trying to make do with what we've got here. But thanks for listening, guys. All the best for the games this weekend, and we look forward to doing this again in a couple of weeks. Cheers.